backcountry Colorado, hiking, backpacking.
I did a lot of marathons. I was convinced to do some ultras.
Climbing, and I do filming and photography.
I just like the ultras because I love the community. I just think that everybody is so nice, whether they're the first place finishers or, you know, us that kind of mosey along.
We're here at another kitchen sesh at Corey's place. Who do we got around the table here? Corey, you want to start us off?
Hey, it's Corey Fain.
And next to you?
Eileen Bloom.
Eric Edgerton.
Devon Olson.
I'm Kelly Peeklow.
Avery Collins.
And I am Russ Rizzo. So we have a packed kitchen.
In the background there we missed.
I'm Ryan Lassen.
Oh, we got Ryan on the pod. All right, welcome. That was his podcasting debut, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome, Ryan. We love you too. We brought Eileen, our lawyer, on for today's show for a very special reason. We are going to be talking about...
If you're in the car with your kids, you might want to hit pause and read the show notes.
We're not condoning marijuana use, but it's certainly something that we're all talking about. We're here in the state of Colorado. Marijuana is legal. And there's probably a lot of misinformation around this topic, in particular as it relates to sports, as it relates to the sports we love. A lot of us are ultra runners ourselves that listen to the show. And we, ultra running is, very visible. And, being here in Colorado with a popular sport like ultra running and what's going on with marijuana, obviously these two are going to converge. And that's why we've got Avery Collins here to talk to us. Avery, why don't you just kind of tell our listeners about yourself, about your background, what you do, and the hat that you're wearing today.
I guess I can probably condense the last 4 years of my life into just like one short story, which would be moving to Colorado after starting to run a bunch of ultras. And I mean, essentially, I just wanted to run in the mountains. And Devon had asked me.
Your roommate and also an ultra runner?
Yeah. So I met him.
Former roommate. It's still very fresh. And so Avery got a girlfriend recently, so we'll get into that. But
yeah, she got a golden ticket too.
Girlfriend.
Just kidding.
Yeah, she did.
So I met Devon at a 50 miler in North Carolina. And after about 6 months after the race, Devon and I stayed in contact, just talking about races and stuff. And I was not digging where I was living at the time. And I don't think Devon was either. So he just asked me if I wanted to move to Steamboat and train a bunch. So we moved into a really cheap condo on the side of a mountain, which made a lot of sense. I mean, it wasn't that cheap.
Nothing in Steamboat's that cheap.
Nothing in Colorado is cheap. Okay, so we lived cheap.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, I'm obviously not explaining this properly. We lived cheap and we ran a lot. That's for damn sure. And I mean, honestly, like a cannabis sponsorship, which I'll get into, which I have a few of now, was never really the idea. Not even close.
This is just something kind of one of those random things that happens to you in your life. And you're like, am I going to embrace it or am I going to run it kind of away from it? You kind of recreationally use pot. And, when you're training, you're pretty open about the fact that you use pot and mostly just enjoy smoking pot or taking edibles or whatever. And, people that aren't familiar with this community may be pretty surprised to know that's actually fairly common, very common, I'd say, as far as, any kind of ultra running event or even just going out in the trails here at Chautauqua. I don't know what to put the number on. I mean, people can speculate, but what would you think? Like in just a typical ultra run or event, like what % of the people are, doing some sort of edible or smoking or,
just like recreationally?
Yeah, recreationally.
Not like
exactly.
for the purpose of being better at ultra running, right?
Yeah, just because they enjoy doing it. Yeah.
50% size.
I would say that's
now, if you come to Steamboat, 95%.
Well, and then Boulder is probably
not even,
right in the same range.
And I'm not even kidding either. Yeah. I mean, we have people come to the group runs and we'll be running with them and Devon and I'll be hanging and be like, there's no way. They don't know where they smoke pot. And
they look too square.
And something will come up and they'll just be like, yeah, man, I ran Run Rabbit Run last year and I was taking 3 20 milligram THC pills an hour. I'm like, what were you doing? That sounds terrible. Like you
And
just
so,
blew my
A
mind.
couple things we want to clarify off the top. You don't actually smoke weed, take cannabis while you're racing.
No, never. That sounds terrible.
We're just talking about, in your training, you like to kind of make that line
Yeah,
because there's a lot
yeah.
of just, people talking about piss tests and whatnot.
And that's
you
been-
don't care because
well,
it wouldn't affect you.
I've already, I passed a piss test after URA 100. So
Which you
I've
won.
no problem.
Right? You won
Yeah.
that race and then you
Yeah.
passed the test.
yeah, the next day too. So I couldn't smoke pot after the race. So let's take that into consideration. I had to run
trying to
for,
punish you.
I ran for 34
tough.
hours after getting lost
all
through the
brother
San Juan
wants.
Mountains. Yes, right after the race. I just want to smoke a joint. And what do you know? I'm taking the test the next day, which I'd even talked to Devon because he was pacing me the last section. I'm like, dude, I think I might talk to Charles and see if I can take that test tonight.
Wait, so this is the URA 100 where you were having a hard time, and then he came in and paced you and kind of lifted your spirits? Was that the race?
I had a lot of pacers that race.
Oh, right on.
But yeah, I got lost for 2.5 hours and ran up an entire mountain. And then
That seems to be a theme in your racing career because you were talking about the Pitchell because
Oh,
we've got
man,
an
I'm great
Asheville
at it.
connection. Talk to us about the pitch. I love this race, and I just got back from Asheville. We're gonna do an Asheville show. We're gonna have a couple of your friends, Aaron Saft and Adam Hill, some of those folks on. Talk to us about the Pitchell. What is it?
Okay, so
Where is it?
there's really only so much I can say about Pitchell on a just because this is such a prominent.
You guys are trying to be all
podcast.
top secret and shit. Come
It's-
on. You came into a kitchen sesh. You got to tell me about the Pitchell.
I'll tell a little
All right.
because it is definitely a down low
we just
thing.
recorded with
Okay,
Adam Hill.
So for the East Coast ultra runners like myself, Devon, Eric over here, we come from some hardcore Blue Ridge mountain running, like Appalachian Trail, nasty Rocky Rudy running.
I'm trying to read Ryan's face. Yeah. Okay. He's agreeing. Yep. All right.
And there's this run from the top of Mount Pisgah to Mount Mitchell, 67 miles with about 20 grand of climbing, maybe 22 grand. And it's held on a certain time of the year. I'm not gonna divulge that. It's not an official race either. It's
How
just
about this? If you can find Adam Hill on Facebook, you can ask him.
good luck. Basically, you just got to know when to show up at a certain spot
Right.
on a certain day of the
And you
year
have
to do the
attempted
run.
that race. You wanted the course record. That was your.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You tried it how many times?
So I've tried it 3 times on very different ideas on what I was doing at it. So the first time was with some older friends of mine that are like mentors to me now, Chris Beck and Jason Robertson. They're runners in Indiana. They asked me to go on this run, and it was the first time I've ever even ran in the mountains. So I just hung out with them the
you tripped a
entire time.
bunch, didn't you?
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except like the boulders aren't as big as I thought they were the first time. Like I remember like running across these big rock slabs in it, and then I come back the next year
Yeah,
and
just tiny little-
after living in Steamboat, and I'm like,
You're like, what is this?
that took me like a couple seconds to get across. I thought that was like a half mile in my head. But the second time was just a failed attempt. Third time, which was not this past October, but the October before. I came through the halfway marker at 50K, 2 hours ahead of the record. Like feeling really good. And then there's a section called Craggy Gardens, which is just insane rocks everywhere, sawtooth style. And I just remember like suffering and hiking up that the first time. And then this past time, I ran the entire section really, really hard.
We got an incoming beer. Who are we saluting tonight? Oh, there. Yeah.
We
Upslope.
can make this happen.
Upslope
Like just like
Brewing.
make a signal, and it's like beer is here.
You just
That's
blew
great.
Devon's mind.
Assist.
God, I wish this was like this every day.
So all right. So
No,
third.
you're good. But long story short, I just I took a wrong turn at mile 50 because someone flipped a sign on the Mountain to Sea Trail. Because this isn't a marked course, you're following Mountain to Sea Trail signs. Someone flipped a right arrow to a forward, and forward was 5 miles down a mountain for me. I was supposed to just go a quarter mile up.
So you have been thrice bitten by the Pitchell challenge, but you're going to go back.
Eventually,
All right, and you're going to bag that. All right. So back to the hat that you're wearing. It says the farm. It's got a cool logo on it. We've got Kelly sitting next to you who works at the farm. So Kelly, welcome to the show. Kelly's a friend of the show just, by being friends with Corey and myself and being a cool guy. But you also just serendipitously work for a company that sponsors Avery here. What's it like to work at a pot shop, Kelly?
It's phenomenally unglamorous. So it's a retail job. But quite honestly, it's fantastic.
You've just dashed so many people's dreams.
He's talking about my career right now here.
I'm talking about my career right now, bro. No, for real, it's a fantastic company. It's a local Boulder-owned company. We grow all of our own product here in Boulder. We don't buy third-party flour. We pull our own CO2 oil here in Boulder. We have a lot of pride.
And that's a drink every Boulder. If you just so everybody's following along. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, welcome. So you run the retail at the farm. I was at a meeting. I won't say who I was meeting with. Outdoor industry president of a company. And he was telling me that he went into your shop and was so impressed by the branding and everything about the farm. He could not stop talking about the farm. What the heck are you guys doing over there?
Just trying to do it a lot different. Just trying to normalize, trying to kind of just get rid of the stigma around cannabis. We hear the word marijuana a lot. We're really trying to change that over to cannabis. It's a little bit less aggressive. It's not what people know. People want to know about cannabis. They think they know everything about pot. They think they know what they know about marijuana. Cannabis is different.
So what do people think? What is the talk to us through that? What do people think about when they're thinking kind of marijuana, and what are you trying to get them to think when you're thinking cannabis?
Well, I'll tell what I will tell you what we try to do, especially in talking about in regards to your show in terms of athletes. Everybody, we have we have people coming in looking for the escape. We have people looking for psychoactivity, the THC. We have other people coming in looking for the relief, the cannabidiol, the non-psychoactive component of the plant, acting as an anti-inflammatory, acting as an anti-anxiety, in topical form in some cases, works against eczema, works against psoriasis, things like that. So there's a lot of benefit. It's great to get the escape of the psychoactivity, but even in terms of athletic recovery, I think Avery here could probably testify to the benefits of CBD in terms of post-workout recovery, things like that. And that's really, I think, more than anything else, what interests me about the industry and where we're going, and the ability of, we have an athlete here who's actually sponsored by multiple cannabis companies in the state of Colorado, Mary's Medicinals, which is really not about anything but relief in some form,
Side note on that, there's no Mary's product that really gets you high at all.
So you could get Mary's Medicinal in any state, couldn't you?
Nutritionals.
Mary's Nutritionals, correct,
okay,
yes. Mary's Medicinals do, in terms of the farm and in terms of Mary Medicinals, all of those products have at least a small amount of THC. And in a lot of cases, what we find is that CBD is actually, there's a benefit to taking CBD with a little bit of THC. In different ratios, you'll find different benefits. So
you are sponsoring an ultra runner. Avery, you've got a couple of marijuana kind of sponsors, but you said that wasn't kind of intentional. You just kind of fell into it. So just take us back to the beginning. You run, sure. And Devon you run fast. I know you've placed very high on some races. When did this all kind of start in your life?
This actually all came together at the end of the summer, the first summer that we lived in Colorado, because I had a buddy named Ryan Kronk, who worked for American Cannabis Company. So they didn't give me any product, but they were helping me with races and gear and stuff. And it honestly was only 2 months after I was with American Cannabis Company that Wall Street Journal comes knocking on the door, and I get to be the first person ever in Wall Street Journal smoking a joint.
So you had that claim to
Bob Marley, awesome. Snoop Dogg, nobody. Me. I'm the first person in Wall Street Journal smoking a joint. Not Wiz Khalifa.
Do you have that on your wall somewhere?
I don't. It's collecting dust somewhere. It's in a box. I have it. Yeah, I have it, but I couldn't tell you exactly where it is. I know I have it.
Did that one article make an impact on your life?
In the cannabis industry, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, American Cannabis Company didn't last very long because they're essentially a consulting company. So there's not a lot of promotion I can ultimately do for them. They don't have a product to offer. But I mean, within a month after there was no ACC, I was with Incredibles. And within a month of Incredibles, Mary's rolled in. And then about 4 months after that, Rollable, which I still use their product.
Well, damn, how many cannabis companies have you had as sponsors?
The ones I just named.
Okay. Yeah.
Plus the farm.
Yeah.
So I'm not really with Rollable anymore. They helped out big
time. You got the first, and they were paying some travel expenses. It wasn't a big deal. You got the Wall Street Journal article.
Correct.
And then a bunch of others.
And then that's when they really started to roll in.
Yeah. So you should really be sending a thank you to that reporter that did that story.
Seriously, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I should reach out.
The power of PR people. I mean,
maybe I should see if he wants to do another story.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe
Just see if he wants to smoke a doobie.
Yeah, right.
He's been waiting this whole time.
So talk us through what. I guess we should kick it to Eileen. I wonder what listeners what questions they would have for someone like Avery. I'm sure there's some pretty basic questions just about what the heck. What are you talking about? Are you doing edibles? Are you doing when you're saying cannabinoids? But what kind of questions do you think people out there have for a guy like him? She has a skeptical look on her face. Eileen looks uncomfortable tonight.
You can be straightforward. I've answered any question you have to ask a million times.
I think the question
the exact opposite
would center more on if he was taking during a race.
Okay.
Yeah, and the answer to that is no.
No, and you know what the really nice thing is my very most recent performance, I took a test directly after, and they tested for THC and CBD, which is very, very uncommon. That's essentially two different tests. There's one test that THC sits on that's much cheaper, and then CBD costs extra. Am I correct? Yeah.
You're talking about in terms of buying the product itself. Yeah, generally CBD is
I'm talking about the test after the race. So there's two different.
No.
So it was
I'm not a scientist.
It was just nice to actually show that I passed this test. Look, guys, I just like smoking pot when I run. I'm not going to use it for competitive.
And to be clear,
purposes.
Avery and I have both talked about this pretty extensively. It's if we had the choice to use cannabis during performing in a 100-mile race, we would not, because it would probably put us to sleep and it would be horrible. It's not
30 miles is one thing. 100 is a whole nother.
Though,
is that true though? So you guys don't think in the Colorado 200 people were doing edibles?
A 200-mile race and a 100-mile race are two different things.
Okay, so in a typical 100-mile race, you don't think that a significant percentage of people are actually doing pot?
I don't know.
Who was doing edibles at 200?
Yeah.
Are you serious? That sounds terrible. I was
Come on, guys.
I was zoned out
being-
from
Corey, what do you
140 to 217.
Yeah, I mean, you're already in La La Land,
Yeah, I was seeing shit naturally.
Well, I guess I could see that.
Yeah, you don't even have to.
Right.
I mean,
You're gonna hallucinate.
A tipped over tree stump on the side of the trail looks like some weird animal you've never seen before attacking.
So what is pot best suited for while you're running? The shorter, what do you consider
Only
short?
30 or 40 miles.
About 30 or 40. Okay, yeah. Yeah, right.
But you have to bring. So you bring.
I would say 0 to 40.
0 to 40. You're all good, Eileen.
Well, so during training runs, does it always help you? Have you ever had any bad experiences partaking during a training run?
Yeah.
You got to find your max, right?
Let's here a good starting point.
I want to hear stories from you, man. You got them.
Oh, this one's going towards this guy. So Devon and I run up the mountain on basically a daily basis, and you'd think Devon would know every last piece of snow, especially in the winter. You only run a service road up the mountain. It's the same route every day up this mountain. And I let Devon take the lead on the run for just one moment. Just one moment.
Time.
And we get lost in the winter of all times. There's only one road.
Avery gets sponsored by Incredible.
Yeah, so it was.
Devon, you lead the way. Where are we?
keep going. You continue.
So that's just basically a start to things that could possibly go wrong. I mean, and this is where, so if there's a listener that has never used cannabis before, this is where I would say, seriously, when it says on the package to take 10 milligrams, do it, because there is a tipping point and you either don't find out because you're responsible, or you accidentally find out, maybe irresponsibly.
What is your threshold? Like, how much pot is too much for you in a day?
You know, a lot lower than most people would think. I mean, if we're smoking it, pretty high, but eating it, edibles are a whole nother ball game. Like I've taken 100 in a day and been fine, but not 100 at once.
That's like 10 doses, 10 times the recommended
my
dose.
brother took. Sorry, I have to tell this
And
story.
we would never
because
suggest
this is
taking-
partially Avery's responsibility.
Former roommate Devon.
My brother from Pennsylvania took 100 milligrams before he got on an airplane.
Oh no!
I swear to God. And you know what he said afterwards? I was like, dude, how was it? He's like, I think I'm gonna eat 2 next time. I swear to God.
This is the very first topic of discussion
Crazy,
on our run the very next day.
Yeah,
He's
of
like, dude, you're not gonna believe this shit.
That's a lot of THC. All right.
I just have one more question. So I think it speaks to your running ability that you feel comfortable doing it while you're running. Because I mean, I know a lot of people that love running and like smoking pot, but they wouldn't necessarily combine it just because maybe their ability
You might be
is
surprised
not
how
as
many,
great.
how few of those there are.
Well,
Just maybe because their ability is not as great. So like
And
a lot
you-
of people when they're training, they have to like really focus on training because maybe their level of their ability is not as high.
Or they
well,
might.
these guys are
well,
saying
they-
95% of runners on the trails in Steamboat are doing some sort of THC.
But for,
And I'm one of the
for
5%
person,
that's not.
And Eric's here. He's representing the clean pot. So Eric, you run a run.
Eric drove here, by the way.
Yes to Eric driving. Woo woo. You own the store where Avery works.
Correct.
What's it called?
Twisted Trails Running Company.
And you've been there for about a year, you said?
I've been part owners for the last year. We've been open for the last 2. We also have a second location down in Silverthorne as well.
So it's any store owner's dream to have a kind of celebrity athlete, someone who's been in the dang Wall Street Journal, for crying out loud. But he's sponsored by these pot companies too. What do you make of all that?
I'm definitely very proud of them. I definitely support them in every way possible.
Yeah,
I support them in everything.
Questions you get? I mean, is this a topic of conversation? Do customers ask about it?
I've actually had customers that have asked, but I mean,
what kind of questions?
Well, I mean, we brought in one of my sponsors.
yeah.
We don't have it right now. There's been some law changes, so it's been an issue lately. But we used to sell CBD only products, which was completely fine. And since certain people have taken office, the laws on CBD have drastically changed. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's Schedule 1, so it's been kind of a
So we
little
don't-
bit different
we don't
story
sell
to have it in
anymore.
there.
I mean, we would like to have Mary's in there, but when it was legal, we did sell Mary's in our store, and we're
creams?
advocates of it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is this Kelly? Talk to us about this. What? Are there, aside from the recreational? I like to get high. I like to smoke a joint or eat an edible and just enjoy my run more. There's also just kind of like you talked about the medical side of it. What are people buying? Like we're hearing a lot about creams. Is that pretty popular?
Topicals are probably most popular with people who have very little experience with cannabis at all. The problem with topicals is that really they're only going to affect issues that are close to the surface of the skin. Psoriasis. I talked about things like with the CBC cream. Also, no psychoactivity associated with the topicals because they're not soaking into the bloodstream. Personally, I suffer from Berger's disease. It's a kidney disease. Can't take Tylenol. Can't take Motrin. Can't take any sort of anti-inflammatory. So I primarily use CBD for any sorts of aches and pains that I have.
How do you take it?
I take it transdermally usually.
What the heck does that mean?
Transdermally means into the bloodstream. Essentially, Mary's makes transdermal patches. Mary's Medicinals.
So you
makes
wear the
transdermal
patch.
Patches. I can wear a patch. There's also, more importantly, instead of the way I actually use it, it's more talking about whether or not you're using it externally where it's going to be somewhat effective, or whether you're using it internally, getting it into your bloodstream and affecting your body throughout, which tends to be
you want
a
it in
little
the
bit more effective.
bloodstream for maximum effectiveness, both from the like relieving pain, but also it's going to give you a little bit of a head high. But you can also get those patches just CBD, right?
You can from Mary's Nutritionals.
Yeah.
And those are probably, you can get them most any places. But to clarify, depending on if someone comes in with the skin problem, I'm not, and maybe they are not experiencing cannabis, I'm not going to suggest that they take it internally. What I'm going to start off with is a topical, because they might get exactly what they need from the topical, not even have to do it. Sometimes CBD, because of the anti-inflammatory effects, sometimes people associate that with psychoactivity, and it's not psychoactivity, but it is very relaxing. Most people like CBD because on top of a THC buzz, CBD just brings your shoulders down, and it just kind of physically makes you feel very loose and very good.
So for the total newbie, the person that, this seems like really weird territory, but they're kind of interested, like the topical would be a way to go. If you want to go a little bit more advanced, maybe you do the topical and smoke a joint so you can, feel
You
good.
can do a topical and smoke a joint, but most, most grows, you're going to find most places are going to offer some sort of very low THC, high CBD flower that might have a small amount of psychoactivity in it, but even at that amount of psychoactivity, it's going to be manageable for people who are not familiar with THC and familiar with the psychoactivity that THC is.
All right, so then take us to the kind of more intermediate level then. So say maybe somebody that lives in Colorado, they smoke joints on the weekend, they're kind of comfortable with the idea. Now you're getting a little bit more kind of intermediate. Like what are you at least seeing kind of, what are people buying?
What you get into then is the different ratios of THC to CBD. And once you get into the more experience, you see people using 1-to-1 products, which means equal parts THC and CBD, which are phenomenally effective for pain.
Such as what?
Well, Mary's Medicinals has a 1-to-1 patch. That's
a patch.
I find to be very effective. It's 5 milligrams of THC, 5 milligrams of CBD. Still very low psychoactivity.
Avery, are you, Devon, what do you guys do? Are you guys just smoking? Are you doing these patch things? Are you getting high tech?
All of it, man.
All of it, really? Well, yeah, I guess when you have a marijuana sponsor, like why not? Sorry, cannabis, excuse me.
The patches are better for just more recovery use. It's not what's funny is the first time I got my first shipment of Mary's in, I slapped a patch on my wrist and went for a run, and like nothing happened at all. And I was a little confused. So no joke, the next night I slapped 4 of them on.
Let's amp it up.
Nothing happens. And I seriously wouldn't try that. The patches affect people differently. I just know some people it affects them much more heavier, but ultimately it's more of a recovery use. So a sativa patch is really nice to put on in the morning after a run, but right when I'm going into work. Whereas an indica patch
with his boss sitting across the kitchen table. This is just a new world, people.
This is not news.
This is not new. This is not new. There's edibles usually in the fridge.
Disclaimer
I keep
that
edibles in
Avery
our
does not go to
company
work
refrigerator.
super stoned.
It's
and he doesn't do it at work.
Yeah.
I don't do it at work. I do it before work.
I read it. So what
Can't
else?
control what happens before work.
Lawyer Eileen's
So
laughing too much.
Avery framed a question for us. It was an easy setup. Just tell us about this week. What's been going on this week?
Yeah.
Like, what's your life?
What'd y'all do today?
Yeah. We ran a bunch. So starting from essentially the beginning of the week, actually both of us have been laying down a bunch of miles. Monday through Wednesday, we didn't run together at all. I was doing a bunch of horrible treadmill miles, I was getting my Ryan Kaiser on.
It was on the treadmill one day too.
Dude, it snows where we live. Yeah. It's a little
you guys
different.
got snow going on, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that. It's just fucking cold, man. Sorry.
It's fine.
This way.
All right, you're a bunch of pansies. All right.
No, it's shut up.
You can't.
Treadmill. It's like running in snow. Running in snow every time.
Oh, dude, we run in the snow a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
We have a lot of snow up our snow.
Dude, like my perspective my perspective on snow is way different now since I moved out here.
Yeah, right.
I'm still laying down 100-mile weeks in the snow. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not loafing around.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I just hit 98 miles for the last 4 days, which is solid because I'm just a little less than 4 weeks out from Georgia Death Race.
Yeah, tell us about the Georgia Death Race.
golden ticket, man. And
Well, first of all, I love the, like everybody always tries to have the most badass name. I mean, the death race.
oh, dude, when I saw
Hey, Kelly, can you give me a death race?
Dude, some reverb on that.
they're gonna make him carry. He told me today we were talking about Georgia Death Race, and he was like, "Yeah, it's good that because I gave him some micro spikes to wear just in case it got too slippery up high, and I had some nanos which are much lighter, and I was carrying them because they're mine, and yeah, it was like they're gonna make him carry a railroad spike throughout the race,
Nice.
and I thought I kind of made fun of him a little bit for that one. Thought it was funny.
Just randomly, just because they can tell you.
everyone has to do it, so I'm not.
Yeah.
That's the only.
like-
I could care less.
It's like
I mean,
the culture of the race, you know.
Is that every year, or they do something different every year?
no, it's every year.
You
yeah.
have a
The
railroad
only thing that
spike.
changes
Got
is
it.
they flip the course every year. So one year is drastically faster.
Oh.
An hour and a half faster.
Which year is this?
This is the faster year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
And is this the first time you're going to try it?
yes.
Okay.
I've ran in the area once though.
Nice.
I did part of the Cruel Jewel course.
Got it. So this is put on by the Run Bums. Is that those
Yeah,
guys?
yeah.
And how long is the course? How much elevation? How gnarly is it?
So it's 68 miles. And when we start talking about vert, I feel like
You're
things.
I don't know.
I feel like things get a little vague,
Yeah.
especially with the flip and everything.
Probably over 20.
Because well, man, I've heard 16 and I've heard 20. I've maybe heard
handle that.
22. Like I don't even.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I hope it's really hard. That'll play in my
So
favor.
to put that in
which is why I
perspective,
picked it.
I'm going to do a lot of us actually. Corey, Kelly, myself. Eileen's going to be volunteering for the Dirty 30. So that's 30 miles. And I think it's like 7,000 vert. And that seems like a very long, complete day to me. So when you're talking,
like what we did today.
16,000. Yeah, that's what we did today.
Actually, we did more vert than that.
That's a training run for these guys. Yeah, right?
$7,000 is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did 28 today, so not as much, or 28 and a half. And then
Like over 9.
little over 9,000 feet of climbing.
And that's fairly typical for you guys.
I wouldn't say typical. It's
Yeah.
not like we do that every day, but like I would say it's typical, like in big weeks that we're gonna do that like once a week or something.
Yeah.
Like, at least
If you're doing
at
something
least.
once a week in my life, that's typical. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like big
Right.
training weeks, I mean that might happen day after day to some degree at least. You
when
know?
when our races line up, it's perfect.
Yeah,
we
right
went
now it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys
running
gonna
it
do the
together
Georgia Death
so-
race?
No, my focus race is actually behind
Devin.
the rocks.
All right, behind the rocks. Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing
Ryan's
this guy
going to
in
be
the
out there with a
parking
bunch of
And
people
I'm
with
signed
the
up
Salomon
right
crew.
now. I run for Mad Moose events, but
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Justin
and
and Ricks.
I'm coached by Justin as well. So
Oh,
I'm
I've heard he's like one of the best guys in ultra running.
he's
Like as
pretty
far as like
awesome.
just being a good dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, like he has like way more knowledge than I would ever like imagine to have.
And he
so-
lives out of Winnebago with his wife. Is this right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're
Around.
actually transitioning into a home
They're
here
selling out.
pretty soon.
Oh, Justin, don't
No,
do
but
it, man.
I know that they are just like always busy. But they're awesome. Yeah, they're awesome.
We've been
for
talking about
sure.
doing like a race director show, but he's like, "Hey, man, I'm always on the road, so it might be hard."
But yeah, you guys should try to make it out to like one of the races.
Behind the
for
well, we were
sure.
talking about Behind the Rocks is this month. Salomon's going to be
Uh-huh.
out there with a bunch of people.
Yeah, I know
If we
they
could get
are
out there,
because
I'd
they're
love to.
bringing 8 runners, and I'm gonna whoop their bums.
Oh, nice! Hell yeah! There we go.
Yeah.
The chow
yeah,
jumping
tell us
throw.
more about that. Devin.
Hashtag innovate team.
Yeah.
Thank you very
so you
much.
guys you're wearing an Innovate hoodie. Avery, the last podcast you were on, you were talking about how you only ran in Salomon shoes. When you won a couple of big races. You won the Colorado 200. You said you didn't have a shoe sponsor at the time. You had basically mostly cannabis sponsors, but now you've got a shoe sponsor, Innovate. When did this happen? Were there discussions about, I know one of the things that was kind of people wondered is like, is a brand like Salomon or La Sportiva going to touch this guy because he's associated with weed? So talk to us about that.
So Innovate started, I mean, I guess more officially 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
Right before they did.
They have some awesome people
did it
on
like
their
a month
team.
before they
They're
did
their
their-
ambassadors too. Yeah, just really
So,
great people.
Before they started actually farming that's when they had contacted me. But I know, you guys know Carrie Dykus, right? Lives here in town.
Of course, Carrie. No, actually, no. but
My
she's
bad.
going to be on the show soon.
Anyways.
Carrie. We're going to note that.
Carrie's one of the
man.
Carrie's the man.
If you like, well, that is actually one of my complaints that I didn't hear a lot from Peter Maximo,
Yeah.
but he would talk a lot about Carrie Dykes a lot. It's like they're like buddies and stuff like that. They're like the two main. Just get like,
Yeah.
there's like one of the main guys, and you have like.
You know what's
Josh as
funny is
well,
that
one of the
I don't
main
even
guys.
people. I kind of we were talking about this earlier on the show or before the show with Corey. Like, are people going to think we're like fanboys of Innovate because we have so many? But like, I didn't even know. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't care who's people's spot. I just like care about like people that have good stories.
Right.
And I don't even care if you're like winning races if you have a good story. And it just happens that you guys all have really cool stories. Like Aaron Saft over in Nashville. I know he used to be really competitive, back in the day, but his $5 5Ks and all that. Just it's just cool to meet athletes that are doing cool stuff. And for you, Avery, I mean, just kind of you're putting a voice. It seems like you're putting a voice to cannabis kind of accidentally. Is that what you want to be doing, or is there a different, message out there that you want to be getting out? Because now that you're kind of getting notoriety, you have kind of this opportunity.
No, I know. When people talk about running, they end up talking about cannabis too. If my name's in the subject, but and I'm fine with that. I'm an advocate at the end of the day, and I honestly thoroughly believe in cannabis use. I think it's a lot safer than alcohol, and
we're all drinking.
there's 10
it is funny. We're all drinking beers, and there's only a couple of guys in the room that would be willing to admit that they smoke pot today, right? Corey?
I've only drank a quarter of my beer, just as a side note to that.
I think everybody's willing to admit that they smoked pot today. Except for Eric over here.
I actually smoked it twice.
Kelly, nice.
I thought about it.
Get it. I get it.
So you're kind of embracing this.
Do you, Avery, do you face conversations with people who are like, how could you do that? Why would you do that? Do you ever have to deal with that?
Oh yeah, you're
Like
my family.
Down. Really?
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
my North
tell us about
Carolina
that.
kind of roots.
So this is
Indiana, right?
This is how this one goes.
Yeah.
You're
a tough one
I
to
tell
figure out.
I tell my mother and my grandparents, very big fans of mine, that I'm going to be in the Wall Street Journal. Period. That's what I said. So that's literally like all I said was a month before the article comes out, I'm going to be in the Wall Street Journal, and they're super excited because they know it has to do with running. But what they don't know is I'm going to be smoking a joint on like headline sports page. So, it took time to really convince them into what I'm doing. And it's not even convincing. I mean, it's rationalizing. My grandparents are, they're older and they live in the South. Like, I mean, they're very conservative. So, cannabis is a drug to them. So I had to really explain to them what I'm doing and show them how useful it is to me. I mean, I'm pretty wired all the time, let alone. So, I mean, it's just, it's something that I really enjoy, and it doesn't do any harm to people. And I make very clear, conscious decisions, like just good decisions when I'm high, and I'm a lot more patient. Like it's, and these are things that I explain to them, and my grandparents are like, they're for it now, man.
Oh yeah, have they tried it?
My aunt.
Are we working on getting the patch out to
my
grandma?
aunt wants to fly them out here.
Nice.
And I don't know. I feel like in passing conversation, I heard my grandpa is open if you came out here to try. I don't know if I'm 100% correct on this. I could be wrong.
You're talking about Sam?
But you could be right.
I am.
Oh wow, he's willing.
Sam, I am.
But we'll see.
Oh, you gotta get him out here.
I mean, I think.
Yeah, I want to be definitely there.
I think I'll be able to talk him into it either way. But
I'm learning how to wear my new buff. Although it's not a buff, it's a panda. What is it? It's a panda wrap. Anyway, it's branded The Farm, and I love it.
Y'all need to bring your grandparents out here and get them some high CBD stuff, because that anti-inflammatory, that is what makes people. My parents come out and they do not partake at all. They live in Illinois. That's a medical state. They could get access to it if they wanted to. they'll come up and I'll just grab some of the farm's Harmonia flower, which is just about a 2-to-1 CBD to THC, very low THC, very high CBD. Makes them feel good. It gets rid of their aches and pains and gives them just a little bit of a giggle. So that
they smoke? Is that what you mean? What do you?
Yeah, when they come out here, they'll do that. They'll
Out of
partake.
a bowl
or maybe even a bong sometimes.
A bong?
Look out.
With your folks, you're ripping bongs. Well, I mean,
okay, they'll smoke a bowl, we'll smoke a joint with them or whatever. But traditionally, what people, what you'll see, especially in Colorado, is you see a lot of places pumping all the THC, 30%, 32%, which is outrageous. Like, I don't even like smoking 32% THC. That's nuts.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, a nice blackberry kush at 14% is brilliant for people who don't have, people who don't have a lot of experience.
Avery's disagreeing. He's like, that's not enough.
Trust me, man. That 32% high dog and that 32%.
Yeah,
That's a good
it's
stuff, man.
this is like a really
high gravity beer, right? For
right.
pot. Yeah.
Well,
Is the farm ever gonna start growing swag again, or
Again,
ever.
before my time.
that really is a good side note though. Like
Remember the
cannabis,
brickweed?
you don't have to get
Pictures of the
high.
old brickweed that we used
to use
break up
cannabis.
in college. Like, oh my god, yeah.
So what else, Kelly? What questions do you frequently get as someone that works in the pod industry, particularly from people that are outside of Colorado?
We do, and most athletes are actually familiar with CBD, and to some extent familiar with the benefits of CBD in terms of their workouts and recovery and stuff, but they've never had access to it, or if they have, they haven't realized that they've had access to it. The other part of it that's difficult is that CBD really works far more effectively with THC, and for someone like me, in a 1-to-1 ratio, it works best. For some people, they can get a lot of relief at a 20-to-1, which is still very little THC, but it is the THC and the psychoactivity that usually gets people to ease back a little bit.
So if you just go into a pot shop and you say, I don't want to hear any of I don't want to even think about this, just give me flour, and you just grab flour, is that going to have CBD and THC in it?
In some cases, it will. In most cases, I think on the recreational side, you see a lot of companies who are trying to keep CBD flower specifically separate from the rest of the flower. But inevitably, you'll see other cannabinoids, CBG, cannabigerol, cannabichromine. You'll see other cannabinoids also show up in those as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I do the
Avery, this is your
interviewing?
show, bro.
Yeah, please.
So does your staff, when someone comes through the door, do they immediately ask essentially what are you looking for? Because what if you accidentally can you want to the THC counter, meaning to get the cannabis that was supposed to be CBD only, and you don't know what you're actually looking for?
Because we grow all of our own flower, we're very much in control of what we have. And there is only one strain that has significant amounts of CBD in it. So really, ultimately, there's very few times, there's rarely a time where our CS, what we call is our service representatives, our CSRs, we go through a process of finding out what the people want, what they're used to, how much experience they have. And usually that's the one I think that we probably rely on the most. If you don't have a lot of experience, a great way to experience cannabis is a low THC with a high CBD, because you're going to get some sort of physical response. You're going to get that anti-inflammatory. Additionally, CBD, as you probably know, is an anti-anxiety. In terms of edibles, if people ever get turned on edibles, CBD is a phenomenal way to offset that anxiety. CBD acts as an anti-anxiety. So, and CBD you will actually find in black pepper. You'll find it in food that we have all over.
Just
the
real
place.
quick. Turnt. This is the first time we can add turnt to our drinking list.
Turnt,
on
that's
Dispatch.
TURN. I think it might be DT.
Is that a word?
Now it is.
Continue.
Yeah.
Continue. So ultimately, the way we do our thing is to make sure that we know what people are coming in for, because our guests range from the daily Boulder, Colorado user to the never been here, saw you on CNN. I'm here from New Hampshire. I don't know what is going on. And
Has the farm been on CNN?
I don't know.
Oh.
They have been before. I think there was an interview.
Who's bigger,
where
the farm
Is that
or
a question?
Avery?
Is that even a question?
I don't know.
Of
That's
course
a question.
The farm has been on
Been everywhere,
CNN.
baby.
Avery's been on Wall Street Journal. So
Hey, as long as the
so-
farm's not
farm's
on
been on
Fox News,
MTV,
that's all that
man.
matters. That's
No,
big
maybe
time.
that's what we made it. Whether like,
Dude, we gotta do an MTV Cribs at the farm. That'd be dope.
MTV. Actually, I would highly suggest that. Seriously.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
think
good. They
that'd
have
be-
a good setup.
Avery, will you
Not that
will
I'm-
you describe like when you walk into the farm, like what you see?
A 5-star restaurant.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yo.
It's served to you on a platter, man. It's
Slope brewing.
it's seriously if I don't know if there's
classy.
stars for cannabis shops right now, but they are a 5-star cannabis shop.
So what?
So you
what
walk
all
in-
involved? Yeah.
So I'll just walk you through the farm real quick. Walk in and you got a little square glass counter similar to a jewelry store with
Really?
very shiny, beautiful pieces from all around Colorado.
Nice.
Kelly over here is going to want to correct me after I'm done. I could be a little
no,
off.
yeah.
You're going, man.
Describe
You're going.
So let's go ahead and swing a left at the counter, work our way back to the official biking jerseys by the farm because they are advocates of cannabis and athletics.
Nice.
And using it responsibly. And then you'll swing a right and work your way back around the back side of the shop where you hit casual tees. Hey, what's on the left side in the very, very back? Like when you walk in and look back, what is back there? I can't remember.
The ATM.
Are you talking about in the front of house? You're probably talking about some of our paintings.
Okay. Yeah.
Tangerine haze painting and an alpha blue painting, both done. Every 420, we have an artist from Omaha come out named Josh Audis, and he paints some sort of representation of our strains, and that's probably what you're talking about. We have two really huge paintings out there. That's there.
So working your way back around, or if you were to just walk in and then swing an immediate right at the jewelry case, there's a waiting area, which is actually pretty cool. I like that. So they have a whole chalkboard with the strains they have, the THC percentage. So, I mean, you can essentially shop for what you're looking for before you get there, which is probably only something for a avid user.
And pause there because I'm sure a lot of people aren't avid users, but they're kind of a little at least curious because you know they see all these strain names and they're like, what the hell? Like, isn't marijuana? So, like for you, an avid user, you sit down with your menu. Like, what are you looking for? Like, what's talk us through it.
What are some of your favorite strains?
Yeah, what are some of your favorites? Yeah.
This has actually become, this has become a more of a recent thing, but sour diesel for sure. So before I had a flower sponsorship, I highly suggested to Devon if he was going to the weed store that he probably should pick up some sour diesel. But as of right now,
It's our sour diesel dong.
it's the delivery. It's the delivery guy.
Thank you, Sour Diesel delivery driver.
Oh God! Soon enough. Farm delivery coming to your
Farm
towns
delivery coming soon.
Straight to your house.
Yeah, when's that gonna happen?
Only the chronic.
Make that happen.
All right, so you told Devon sour diesel, way to go. That's a sativa or an indica?
Sativa.
All right, so that's
there's
kinda
different, and Kelly will be able to help me on this. I'm not a scientist at the end of the day. I really just like the cannabis that gets you high.
Yeah.
But most sour diesel strains, they're all going to be sativa, right? I mean, unless if it's mixed with and becomes a hybrid, and then it's essentially
So the sativa being kind of they say S is for speed, so it's like what you take in the morning.
A
And
lot
it
of
gets
people, the way they associate it is that sativa is going to be a daytime. It's going to be get
Daytime.
your heart rate going a little bit more. Indicas are going to be a little bit more body centric, and they're going to be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more lazy. So it doesn't surprise me that a diesel would get you going, because an indica
Doesn't surprise me that a diesel would get you going. JJ Yoss has just entered the building, guys.
Wow, look at that time, my man. Wow.
Dude,
So,
JJ,
you
look
listed,
what-
this
Good,
dude just
good.
hosted the red carpet.
Looking. Are you wearing makeup? Okay. You're just that beautiful? Jesus. Is this that beautiful, man? Yes. Papa Squat. We're wrapping up with these guys, and then we're gonna do a separate. We're doing a separate session on
podcast.
Biff.
I have a question for Avery and Devon.
Okay.
How do you guys think that it sounds like from what you're talking about, you like to train and have a good time. When it comes to racing, you're like getting down to business. You don't want to be high. You're not drinking beers at mile 80 of a 100-mile race or anything. But do you think that people are? And do you think that marijuana, from your experience training, should be classified as a performance-enhancing drug and tested for during races?
I think it's kind of crazy that they test for it, to be perfectly honest. Like, I mean, first of all, I started the sport not as like someone that wanted to compete and then realized that they could compete. So, but I don't know. And like Avery and I've talked about this a bunch too. And I don't know if it's like, I really don't believe that like getting high before you run makes you better at running. Like, I think that running makes you better at running. Like,
Simple as that.
that's like,
Well, I mean,
well,
I guess one test would be: do your
Some peop-
times ever improve when you smoke versus when you don't?
well, you'd have to look at my times when I don't smoke.
Which don't exist.
No, that's essentially a stoner
No, I don't
comment.
really know. I mean,
Do you think he's looked at that information?
Stoner comment. Hashtag stoner comment.
He doesn't care.
Dude, I
That's
just
what it
like,
comes down to. Like, we don't do it.
Like, if they were like, you can't race because you smoke weed, I'd be like, fuck you. You know,
Can I
like,
ask
then
you
I'm
guys-
not gonna run your stupid race. Like,
I want to ask you.
I don't know. It's running. I started running
how
for a
expensive that
different
mic is,
reason.
so
You
I
know,
do
It's
know.
like,
Of all people, you know.
That's the 300.
I don't
dropped.
like have 1,000 sponsorships, and I'm not like it's not my only job. And like I don't know, man.
What is
like,
your other job?
I work at the Creekside Cafe in
Nice. Steamboat
Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
right.
And yeah, like I do a bunch of stuff over there. So that's pretty rocking.
Kelly.
I was just, in terms of what you guys were talking about, in terms of, actually, I lost my train.
Yes. Fucking the stoner show.
There was
man.
no
Of course
smoking
on the
before the
stoner
show.
Come back because it was good. It was good. It was
You had a
it
question
was
for
so fucking
athletes.
good.
I
I had a
mean,
great
like honestly though, like
Oh no, I got it.
go ahead.
Kelly's
Go ahead.
remembered his
Go
answer.
ahead. Go ahead.
Shout out to PAX.
You guys, yeah. Stone and me, damn Pax. You guys talk about even hearing you talk about the way it's not so much that it is whether or not you use when you're training. And this is something that this is how my dad explains it to his friends. He's like, no, you guys don't understand. In Colorado, it's just a lifestyle. Like people use cannabis on a regular basis, not because they're going to go for a run and not because they're going to go to the grocery store. It's just because it's part of what has become part of daily life for a lot of people, and not necessarily in terms of an escape, but in terms of relief in some extent. So
yeah,
it's
maybe
not
like you're an angry person or something and you don't want to be angry.
and you
or
know
like
what? I used to drink 6 beers and
Yeah,
that used to get it
exactly.
cool, but that offset me a different way. And some people find that relief in cannabis. So, I mean, I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is.
Donald Trump is listening and he does not like you.
I hope he
Don't
is.
worry,
I
he's
hope
not
he is.
listening.
Suck up.
He doesn't listen to anything.
I think it is more that it's like we're finding that it is a lifestyle, and that is kind of the normalization process, is that we all use regularly.
Yeah.
You're going to go for a run and not use. You're going to go for a run and use, and it's just going to happen, and you're going to use it different ways, but it's not something that you do specifically to go do something.
Yeah,
I don't
and
go to
it's like-
shop for
and
shoes
it's
and
not-
get high
It's
because
not
I'm going to go
contrived.
shop for shoes.
It's not like we have to like get high to go for a run too.
That's what we
Like,
did today.
Or we have
forgot.
to like go for a run to get high. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like whatever. Like
We got to the top of Bear and realized we forgot to get high before the run.
yeah, I mean that happens.
That's
all
how
the
that one
time.
went
And
down.
the fact is that when you get up there and you open up that container and you smell that flower, on top of anything else, you're not thinking necessarily of how high you're going to get. You're like, this is a beautiful product right here. Like, this is amazing that this is a super lemon haze, smells like lemons. This is crazy. Like, this is normal.
That's what you get from the farm.
That's what you get from this one.
Good. That's right.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap up this kitchen sesh, but we do want folks that are interested in the topic and following you guys. So the farm, how do we find the farm?
Farm 2801 Iris, Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, right on. And then if for people that are like in Omaha that want to read up on this, how do they find the farm?
www.thefarmco.com.
Thefarmco.com. Avery, what's the best way? Like, what do you have a social media platform of choice? How do people follow along with you?
Just Facebook me. Just
Facebook you.
Facebook me.
Yeah, right on.
Actually, if you want a really
Snapchat.
specific way to find me, just at Runnin' High
Runnin' High?
on Instagram.
Running with no G.
Yeah,
at the-
running with
in the
no
running.
G.
Chat, we can get in on.
Just
It used to
just
be
say
to
it like I
clarify-
would. Running high.
Running high.
This is like
Running
when
high.
we first moved in and he got the sponsorship. I think that his IG name was like running high 420 or something like that.
Nice. Yeah.
And like it changed for the better.
I think you could be in an interesting, like in my business, you'd call it thought leadership. You know, like if you're saying that like 80% of people out on the trails actually are doing pot, whatnot, there's obviously a lot of interest in this.
For sure.
And maybe you could be the thought leader, like that lays it out. Like you've experimented with everything. And
Is he doing pot?
Maybe you can. Maybe you can, help guide people along so they're not going past their threshold and they're being responsible. I don't know, just an idea. Why? You guys are all laughing at me. Why?
He did say doing pot.
Because I'm old. I have gray hair. Doing pot. That's what old people say.
Doing it.
Doing the pot.
Well, we all know that we're all doing the pot after this podcast. That's for damn sure.
How do people follow along with you, Devon?
Honestly, I kind of prefer the Instagram thing.
Yeah,
like,
right on.
It's my last name, Olson, OLSON _ Devon, DEVON. That's
Cool.
it. And then, or Facebook me. I might accept you. I might not. I don't know. We'll find out.
And Ryan Patrick Lassen, who's been here with us. He's with Salomon. Why don't you get on the mic and tell us how people can check your stuff out?
Yeah.
And your sweet mustache.
Dude, yeah. Should I rub it on the mic?
Yeah.
Little that.
Wow, look at that.
Is this the $300 mic? Or
Ryan
Yeah.
$1,200
Different mics have
microphone.
different.
Look, we got two mustaches.
Tony licked this one.
Yeah.
Bob Africa.
I can't do the beard. I got to do the mustache.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
I like all the social medias. I did a few Snapchats
Nice.
tonight.
Did some Snapchat.
I did a live Instagram.
Nice.
I think.
We're recruiting Ryan. He's going to be part of the dispatch crew, I think. Yep. Be our gaffer. Yeah.
I like
So you-
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, so you
That's how you can find me.
you
Our Lassen.
at least until recently kind of ran the Boulder community for Salomon.
Yeah, still am.
And you have weekly runs. So if you're in Boulder, can't people check you out weekly?
Yeah, every Tuesday you could find us at Chautauqua. Just look for a big Sprinter van. I just tapped. You told me not to tap.
Yeah, that's yeah.
You could edit. Can you edit that out?
Black
Someone else
mark
tap.
on
Can you
Ryan.
edit that out?
Black
We're both
mark
in
on
trouble
Ryan.
now, man.
15 minutes.
3 strikes, you're not invited back.
Yeah,
his mouth is close to the mic, so
so close. Every Tuesday,
Not as close as
Chautauqua.
right on.
We do. It's a pretty casual 3-mile run. Chautauqua, 6:00 Tuesdays.
And then if
I always
people
have
wanna
beer.
check out cool running videos, I think Salomon's site's a great.
Yeah, they
place
do
to
a
go.
pretty good job.
It's the best. Let's
SalomonTV.com.
we'll just say it's the best. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, Red Bull is like one
Bull's-
other good one.
They're on your heels.
yeah.
They're on your heels.
Yeah, but Adidas does some cool stuff too. But yeah, I like to think that we do some.
And when you got
Everybody's
Killian,
sitting in this
when
room
you
can
got
appreciate
Killian, game
he's a
over.
freak.
Yeah. Eric, why don't you tell folks if they're in Steamboat how they could drop by, where the store is at, or if they can check it out online.
Yeah, we're online at twistedtrailsrunningcompany.com. We also have Facebook as well. We're located right downtown, right between all that and Rocket Fizz. Very easy to find. And every Thursday, we also do a social run sponsored by the local bar right down the road. That
Nice.
we get
All Colorado beers, mostly at least.
yeah,
Nice.
usually at least about they have 30 beers on tap, and approximately 26 of them are usually Colorado brews. That's the barley. So yeah,
And you're like a huge dude. You're an intimidating physique. Like, what's your deal? Are you an MMA? Are you a mixed martial arts fighter?
It's always Russ with the size of the dudes. Like, what's
I
the
know.
story? This is the more interesting story.
I get envious of like really fit dudes. I'm like, God, how does that guy have so much muscle? What do? Are you an Iron Man? Are you Bob Africa? Is he our Steamboat Springs Bob Africa? Bob Africa. We're just trying to get some drinks going.
That's really
Maybe
his last
this is
name?
our Bob
That's
Africa
his
for
name,
the
Bob
hour.
Africa.
His name is
Bob Africa.
That's awesome.
If they're following along, they're getting tipsy now. Tell us, Eric, what do you do? Why are you so physically fit?
Yeah, what cares, man?
yeah, I don't know.
Cut it out.
Genetics, running, cycling, weights, a little bit of everything.
Just because you enjoy it. Just
Just a natural athlete.
You compete? Did you used to compete?
So I was on the all Navy volleyball team for a year.
All right.
So that's about the most competition I've been in, but just been a solid athlete in pretty much everything I do.
Yeah.
He made it up to Barry before Avery and I did today.
Yeah, well done, sir. Avery, care to comment?
because I wasn't.
He's fast.
He's really fast. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming by the studio.
Thank you, man.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.